Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into one of the biggest decisions you'll ever make. But we're not going to talk about interest rates or square footage. Nope. We're going to pull back the curtain on the hidden psychological forces that are really driving you when you decide to buy a home.
Look, on the surface, the conventional wisdom is pretty clear, right? Buying a house is a financial transaction. It's all about logic, crunching the numbers, and making the smartest investment you possibly can.
But what if that's not even half the story? What if the things that are really influencing you can't be found on any spreadsheet? Because here's the truth. When it comes to property, our decisions are almost entirely driven by our feelings, our fears, and yeah, our deepest human desires. And that brings us right to our first big idea, this myth of the perfectly rational home buyer.
It's called the rational buyer illusion. It's the story we love to tell ourselves, that we're being cool and calculated, making a choice based on pure logic. But the reality? Our emotions are in the driver's seat, steering us toward a decision that just feels right, even if the numbers don't totally add up.
So, okay, if it's not just about the numbers, what are we actually looking for when we go house hunting?
Well, it turns out we're buying something much more fundamental. We're chasing a sense of safety, we're trying to buy some stability in what feels like a really chaotic world. We're looking for a signal of status, that we've made it. We want a feeling of belonging. And maybe biggest of all, we're buying a tangible vision for the person we want to become.
This just sums it up perfectly. The transaction isn't for wood and brick. The real purchase is for these incredibly powerful, invisible things. Safety, our own identity, and a whole lot of hope.
Now, understanding this emotional core is absolutely crucial because it leads us straight into the hidden psychological traps that can turn that dream into a very expensive mistake.
First up is one you've probably felt, social proof. This is basically our brain's lazy shortcut. If everyone else is doing it, it must be the right thing to do. In real estate, this creates that intense fear of missing out, that FOMO, and it's what fuels crazy market bubbles based on pure crowd emotion, not sound logic.
And I mean, you can hear this exact conversation happening everywhere. Maybe we should just buy now before it's too late. And what's the reason? Yeah, because everyone else is. That one little phrase, everyone else, can just completely shut down our rational brain.
Next up, status psychology. A house is never just a house, is it? It's a symbol. It can get so tangled up with our identity and our idea of success that we are willing to stretch ourselves financially to the absolute breaking point just for that feeling of validation.
Then there's this really powerful bias called loss aversion. Psychologically, the pain of losing $100 feels way worse than the joy of gaining $100. So for a seller, lowering their asking price doesn't feel like a smart business move. It feels like a painful, personal loss that they will fight tooth and nail to avoid.
And this little exchange just captures that conflict perfectly. A seller's investment is measured in memories, in sweat, in emotion. But the market? The market is cold and doesn't care. As the agent says, the market doesn't price emotions. And all the seller can think is, but it should. And trust me, the traps don't stop there. There's future projection, where we fall in love with an imaginary life we'll have in the house, not the house itself. Our timing is often driven by pure fear. We rush in when the market's hot and freeze up when it's not. And we hold on to bad investments because of the sunk cost fallacy, refusing to let go simply because we've already put so much in.
So, okay, our minds are basically a minefield of these emotional traps. What in the world do we do about it? Well, that brings us to section 4, learning to think like an investor.
And when you put the two side by side, the difference is it's night and day. The emotional buyer, well, they buy a story. They focus on how a place feels. But the rational investor, they buy based on numbers. They focus on probability. It's a huge shift from reacting based on headlines and feelings to acting based on real analysis.
And making that mental shift is what leads us to our final and honestly our most important takeaway of all.
Because after all of this, after we've talked about the market, the psychology, the finances, it turns out that the most valuable thing you bring to the table, it's not your down payment, and it's not even the property itself.
It's clear thinking. That's it. It's the ability to step back, recognize your own emotional triggers, spot these little biases in yourself, and actually separate your hopes from the hard data. That's self-awareness. That is your greatest asset, bar none.
So we want to leave you with this question. When it's your turn and the pressure's on and you're making that huge decision, you have to ask yourself, who is really in charge here? Is it your hope for a beautiful future, or is it your logic for a secure one?